Hello, everyone. Welcome to Soul Focus. I'm Brooke, and this is my special guest, Keryn Lee. How are you today, Keryn?
Hi, Brooke. I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Very good, very good. I finally got my computer going. I just didn't know what was happening. People said the energies have been crazy the last few days, the Schumann frequency and all that. And so I was like, yeah, so I wasn't sure if it was my computer or it was just the universe going, yeah, no, we got stuff going on.
Yeah, it can get a bit crazy at times.
Oh yeah, and with technology, it's at the best of times it can be just a little bit all over the place,
Yeah.
and we just never know. So everyone, Keryn Lee is an energy healer, teacher, author. Has been doing this for most of your life, haven't you?
A long time, yeah.
A long time. Okay. So just tell us how you got started.
Uh, well, we have to go a fair way back for that. Probably, I was thinking about it before. It would be 40 years this year, actually, that I first became interested in. Well, actually, the year before that, my mum gave me an astrology reading, and I didn't take any notice of it. I thought it was nuts, and she was going through this whole sort of personal development thing, and it was a year later that I actually pulled it out of my cupboard and thought I should read it. You know, she bought
Yep.
it for me. I should do the right thing. So I read it and I was just kind of blown away that this woman that I'd never met was describing characteristics that were just like me. And I guess that something just kind of cracked open that day, and I just started to explore a whole different world. And when I look back, I guess I kind of had an awareness that there was more to life because through my school years,
Yep.
there was always a sense of the education that I was getting was not what I really wanted to know. And I kept feeling like I wanted to ask these big questions, and I was just getting these little answers. And aside from the fact that also I was sort of, had a lot of family stuff going on, so I really didn't. Play well with
Yep.
others, I guess you would say, at school. So I really felt like a fish out of water. So when I, after having this astrology reading done, and then realizing that wow, there's stuff out in the world that um, is speaking a different language, that is talking to
Yep.
me at a different level. And it just kind of went crazy from there. I just, probably like many, many others, read every book I could find and, went to classes and workshops. Now, you got to think back then, there was no internet either. So things were a lot slower.
Yep.
And access to information was nothing like what you have now. So, it was a much slower journey. But I just did a lot of reading, uh, focused on, learning different healing modalities, going to different workshops, and just, I guess the focus at the time was trying to heal myself. I always felt like I was kind of broken,
Yep.
that there was something wrong with me. I had all this emotional trauma and stuff. It's like, what can I do to kind of fix me? And so that just led me on this amazing journey, and meeting a lot of amazing people, a lot of, very cool experiences. And to a point where I suppose about 10 years ago was when I started to learn theta healing. And I
Yep.
really feel, there were many pivotal moments, but that was really one where I really felt like I had the tools that I needed to do the things that I want to do and to create the change that
Yep.
I wanted.
So it's a real
So
game
yeah,
changer.
yeah.
Yep.
And we can all try so many different modalities and read so many different books. In fact, one of the things that I noticed, it was probably for about 18 years, I read a lot of books, was just hungry for all of this information. And then I got to a point where I felt like I was saturated, like just too much information, not enough change. And I think what was happening was, um, when you're reading books, you're getting external information. You're reading about other people's experiences, other people's points of views and opinions, and knowledge. And that's
Yep.
great to a point, but sooner or later you have to start bringing through your own wisdom and listen to your own voice. And I think it was after that 18 years I sort of went, just feeling very dissatisfied with what I was reading, feeling like, I've read the book and I didn't get it. There must be something wrong with me. The person in the book can do it, and there's probably all these other people reading it and they're getting it, but something must be wrong with me because I'm not getting it. Well, what I realized was there was actually nothing wrong with me, but it just meant that person's perspective or whatever they were doing, it just didn't resonate with me. So it took a while to sort of, to find that what did resonate with me. And so one of those things was definitely the theta healing, and made a huge impact.
Well, I guess books aren't cheap, so you get a book and you're like, damn, it's not resonating with me.
Why didn't this fix me?
That's it. I want my money back.
But I mean, I think it's part of that that journey of awakening, isn't it? To try all these different things. I guess we do go through that frustration sometimes, but that's what actually leads us to finding our own truth, to start letting go of everybody else's perspectives and opinions, and say, well, hang on a minute, what's actually inside me? What about listening to my own voice, And I think once we get to that point, we start to grow. We start to grow at a whole different level,
Well, as you said, with all the information, there's so much information and easy to get this day that people can just get lost in their curiosity and just waste years in their spirituality, just jumping and jumping and jumping.
Absolutely.
Without really finding their own wisdom.
Yeah, that's so true. It's phenomenal, the amount of information that's out there at the moment. Fantastic on one hand, because it's like anything you want to know, you just type it in and boom, stuff will come up. But yeah, like you said, at the same time, you can just get so distracted and so influenced by other people. And sooner or later, it comes back around to you have to go within and listen to your own voice.
Yep. So what sort of, when you were like 18 and you were getting spiritual, what sort of practices did you have at that stage?
What did I do back then? It was really just a lot of reading for a few years, doing a lot of workshops to do with sort of personal development and that sort of thing. I think one of the first modalities I did was Reiki, which, I sort of played around with for a while, but it just didn't really resonate with me. I know there's so many people there that just love it, but it just wasn't one that really, really did it for me at the time. I did a really interesting modality called psych energy, which I've Googled it in later years, and I don't think it's actually around anymore. So it was probably a modality that someone just sort of pulled together on their own. But that was quite an interesting one to do. And then, everything from massage, psychoperistaltic massage. I did different types of. You used to tune into the peristalsis, like the pelvic area, with a stethoscope and listen to that part of the body, and it would really it would gurgle and do all crazy things, which gave you an indication that energy was moving in the body. So the interesting thing now is that, I can do the same thing without the stethoscope, you just learning to tune into the body and all that sort of thing. But, as we go along, all of these different things we learn all contribute to whatever it is that we're going to do later,
Yep. Like your own freestyle.
Yeah, exactly. And, I've got to say that the majority of what I do is theta healing, but there's just so much more that, bits and pieces that I pull in from different places during a healing session, depending on what's required for each client at each time,
Well, yeah, I noticed that is people that really know their stuff. They've studied so much, but they just pull the tools that they use to resonate to get the job done at the end of the day.
Yeah, And that's just all part of really learning to trust yourself, trust your intuition, trusting yourself. And in the long run, I don't know that it's the tools that really matter so much. It is really your trust in yourself and your belief in your ability to help someone or help them create change, because ultimately they're the ones that are choosing the change when they come to you. Even though you're the one labeled a healer, that the person actually has to choose that change for themselves, and then they create it themselves. We're really just the conduit and the catalyst, perhaps in some cases, for that change to take place. So that's always just such a fascinating thing to witness as a healer. How people show up, the things that they, the issues that people have, the level of change that they choose, and how they go about sort of facilitating all that. It's just such a gift to be able to witness that sort of thing each day.
It's lovely, isn't it? That you're not the universe and you're just there to facilitate it.
Yeah.
And
I think that was, sorry.
No, you're right.
I was just going to say, I think that's one of the big lessons I had to learn, because when I first started learning the theta healing modality, I just put so much pressure on myself to get it right. And, what do I do now? And all of that sort of thing. And I remember my teacher saying to me, Keryn, you're not doing the healer, the creator is. And I just remember going, oh, thank God, it's not up to me to do it all. So, that just made such a huge difference, because it's like, okay, it's not on me. There's a whole big picture happening here that really isn't about me at all. I just happen to be here witnessing the show, sort of thing. So, it definitely made a big difference.
It takes a lot of pressure off, and that opens so much more doors, so you can start doing other stuff when you're doing the healing.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been healing for long, but I love it. I think everyone in their spiritual walk, it's like a must do. You must train in something just to start feeling energy.
Yeah, just to have the experience, because I know for me, when I started doing the theta healing, it really opened up my intuitive abilities. It really opened up my healing abilities, my awareness. It contributed to so many other areas of my life. So I think no matter what sort of healing you're doing, like you said, it definitely starts to get things flowing. It opens up those energies, opens up the channel of communication with, creator guides, whoever it is, that universe, who or whatever it is you want to work with, opens up those channels of communication. And I know that most people that I meet through my healing work, they want to develop their intuition. They want to be more intuitive and connect with people, be able to listen to those messages, their own messages from their guides, all that sort of thing. So, definitely being able to open up to those things and develop those abilities, really makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. It makes so much. Until you get your guides give you the message you don't want to hear, then you're like, oh, that wasn't my guides.
Yeah, exactly. And it takes a little while to learn where the messages are coming from. Is this my own voice? Is this creator? Is this what's going on
Or is it
here?
my ego in the background?
And that's all part of the fun of it.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big learning one for me, just learning that, well, like, soon as you start to make soon as you start to justify something, it's usually ego.
Yeah, there's a really interesting class in the theta healing. They have, there's a basic, advanced, and then there's a heap of other classes you can do if you choose to. They have one called You and the Creator, and in this class, it actually teaches you how to tell the difference between what's your voice, what's creator, what's your guides, what's your higher self, etc. But one of the exercises we did in the class was we asked one question, and then we went and we asked our ego for the answer. We asked our higher self. We asked our guides. We asked the laws, like the plane of the laws, which is the law of gravity, law of time, whatever. We asked the laws, and then we asked Creator, and we got a message from each of those different levels. And it was just so amazing to hear the difference in the answer to the same question, just how very different the answer was. So, you know, that was a really fun class to do, and actually one that I really enjoy teaching now as well. So, just such a interesting perspective.
Can you give people an example of that?
Okay.
Like, if it's not to your personal question.
No, that's fine. Yeah. One of the questions that I did ask actually was about my book, and, you know, how's the book going to go, that sort of thing. And I remember the plane of the laws, like when I asked the laws, the answer was be ready or be prepared after the release of the book. So the laws are always going to be very practical.
Yep.
I remember that one specifically. I'm just trying to remember what some of the others were. I don't think it was to that question. I think there was another question. I remember, I think it was my guide saying, Keryn, you can keep asking the same question over and over, and we're still going to give you the same answer.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we're hoping for that different answer. And
just get another reading.
A creator's message always is about love. It's always such a simple, basic. You know, as an example, I was doing a healing swap with a friend of mine, and she was doing some healing on me, and she said, I'm channel Creator now. And I'm thinking, awesome, message from Creator. And she pauses for a minute, and then she says, trust yourself. And that was it. And it's like, okay, simple, short, sweet, simple. Nothing more needed to be said, and the energy behind that answer also was massive. So it was more than just the words. It was kind of the energy that was conveyed as well. But it only needed to be really simple. So, you know, I guess that's a little bit of a perspective on, you know, the different, some of the different ways that the questions can be answered.
Yep. And what would the ego say in something like that? When you
ego is generally, I can't remember a specific off the top of my head, but ego is generally it's survival mode. It creates an identity, and then it needs to do everything it can to keep itself safe. And I never look at the ego as bad. I just look at it as this is what it has had to do to basically keep you safe. And the best way to handle that is to, you know, well, you can help sort of clear stuff around that, but to help move it into states where, you know, for example, focusing on what it is that you do want to create in your life, getting into that energy, visualization, whatever it is you want to do, and really starting to tap into that energy more than the fear-based ego, and starting to let it know that it's okay to change, and, you know, taking baby steps, doing little things to get out of that fear. Of course, the theta healing and many other modalities have some great tools, you know, EFT and all sorts of things that you can use to help create change at that level. But yeah, the ego is very much in survival mode, wanting to keep you safe, which usually means limited.
Yeah. So after you did the pelvic with the listening healing, what did you start? What did you start learning from there?
I don't remember if there were any other modalities at that time, but I do remember it was probably a little bit after that I started working with a guide. So after I did about 18 years reading the books, doing different modalities and stuff, and I had about 2 years where I was just really frustrated with everything. By this stage, I was living in the country, and you know, even more limited resources out there. But I remember, reading books like, is it the Celestine Prophecy and stuff like that, where, people had guides and that should have show up, and I'd be like, where's my guide? This
Yeah.
sucks. What about me?
Yeah.
And this kind of went on for a while. And then eventually I did get a guide show up. And so I worked with her for about 7 years. That was a really amazing time in my life. She was actually a physical human, but she was also someone I worked with spiritually and I guess telepathically. So she's not someone that you're going to find on a call or something like this. But I remember seeing as I said, living in this little country town, very church oriented town, very farming community.
Yep.
And as I walked into the shop one day, I noticed this little sign that said meditation, and I'm like, I'm going to be there, because it was literally the only thing of that sort in the whole town, probably for miles around. And the really interesting thing was I used to show up for this class every week, and this supposed to be a 1 hour class would often just last for about 4 or 5 hours. And this lady would just talk and just say these most amazing things. And I'd just be sitting there like a sponge absorbing all of this information. And quite often I was the only one in the class. Occasionally there were a few other people that came in and out, but it really felt like she was just there at the right time. We were meant to connect, and it really just was there. She was there for me. So she was there for about a year, and then she moved on, and she used to just live in caravans and move around. And, she's the sort of person that would just walk bare feet everywhere, and just very, very down to earth, but very, very spiritual in a really sort of non-pretentious way, But as she left that town, what would happen is we started working telepathically together. We started, I would go visit her, maybe every month or so. So we worked together a lot. We started creating some writings and that together. We did a lot of stuff together for about a year. So it was a really fun time. It was very, I learned a lot. But then at the end of that 10 years, it was really interesting, because here's someone who'd been intensely in my life for 7 years. And then all of a sudden, I just knew it's time for this to end. And basically, she sort of went her way, I went my way. And literally since then, that is probably, I don't know, maybe probably 15, 16 years ago. Literally, I think we've spoken twice since then in that time, because it's like we did what we had to do, and then we both had other paths to walk. And for me, that was really about becoming the teacher, because I remember the very first time I walked into that meditation class, I sat down, no one else in the room, and she said, Keryn, I teach teachers. And she said, this is going to change your life. So if you're not ready for that, you may as well leave now. And I don't know if I was terrified. I just sat there and thought, oh my God, what's going to happen, But it certainly did change my life. It was very cool and a very fun part of learning. But as I said, that had to come to an end, and it was really time for me to start being the teacher. And that's when I sort of started doing just weekly classes, teaching conscious breathing, and just things that I'd learned from her and over the years. And then that went on for a couple of years, and then I decided that it was time to sort of expand my business, step out there in the world, be seen. And that's basically when I came back to Adelaide and started working on getting more serious about work, started doing classes here, started doing all the expos and stuff like that. And that's really when my business sort of started to grow.
Yep. So what are some of the main things that you took away from that teacher that helped you with your spiritual walk?
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing, because I remember her saying to me, because as I said before, I used to read lots of books all the time, and she never read books. but she used to just have all this stuff that would just come out her mouth. It was like, my God, it's like she had a direct channel to the heavens, and it all just came out her mouth. And I remember thinking, oh, I wish I could do that, you know. But she said to me, Keryn, one day, no, what did she say? The new age and this all of this that you're going through, she said, that's just a phase you're going through. And I was so angry at her. I'm like, this is not a phase. Like, this is really important. This is life. This is it, you know. But she was right, because I found myself, you know, going beyond all of those teachings. I found myself sort of stepping away from a lot of earlier teachings because I thought, I don't need them. And I did get to the point where I could sit in front of my class and just, you know, stuff would just come out my mouth that I didn't know where that came from. So, but we all have this ability. That's the point. We all have this within us, but it's not necessarily that I taught what she was teaching, because I really don't. I really teach a lot of quite different stuff to what she did, but she did teach me how to find my own voice and listen to that, you know, listen to those inner messages and trust myself, you know.
So how much work did you have to do on your, like, when people are trying to tune in and learn that? How much time were you putting in a day, or effort were you putting in a day to try and connect with that? Like, did it
you know,
take months?
I didn't see it as effort, because prior to meeting her, I would say that, yeah, everything was an effort. I felt like I was, you know, one step forward, two steps back, just not feeling like I was connecting at all. But after I worked with her, we just organically developed this communication with each other, this intuition. She was writing this spiritual work, she was channeling it, and then I would type it all up for her. And in the process of doing all the typing and editing and other bits and pieces, it was like it was energetically downloading to me as well. So I think I really got a lot out of that. So when you sort of say practice and hard work, it was like, no, none of that. But in terms of receiving energy and working with energy, that was probably, well, at the time, I had young children, and so I wasn't working, and I was able to, you know, spend most of the day, you know, typing, and, you know, sometimes I'd be up late at night, tap, tap, tap on the computer. And at one point, you know, breastfeeding one baby while I'm tapping and pushing the other on the rocker with my foot and all that sort of stuff. So it was a very big part of my life, but it was not hard work at all. It was very, very fun.
Your first book that you wrote, the new Conscious Book of Ascension.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What's that book about?
What was that book about? Gosh, that's probably over 10 years ago I wrote that one, actually. You know, I wrote that when I started doing expos, because I wanted to have something on the table that I could sell, something that kind of represented me. And I guess it was a culmination of some of the teachings and awarenesses that I was sort of having at the time. It was a very simple book, and it was really about simplicity. It was about, you know, just letting go of all of the, you know, there's a lot of stuff in the spiritual industry, new age industry, that is just, it really is a business. It's really about selling. It's really about, just a lot of stuff you don't need. And I don't want to make any of that wrong, because you know, the beauty of it is, it's just that there's so much out there for people to discover. So in that respect, it's amazing. But in terms of your spiritual journey, I think we have to recognize that you don't need any of it. All you really need is you. And that we have the ability to transform ourselves, that we have the ability to, you know, just to breathe, you know, to take a breath. And that can create such a dynamic shift in your body. the ability to ask, ask and you shall receive, to say to the universe, you know, hey, what else is possible here? What would it take to change this? What else can I create now? And have the universe set into motion to bring you what it is that you're asking for. We make things so complicated, and that book was really just about keep it simple and listen to your own wisdom, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm always pushing with the masculine, so I fall into that, like, you know, I should be studying this, or I should go and meditate more, or how can I make this work? And it's just sometimes it feels like you're going around in circles.
Yeah.
Trying to
Yeah.
develop, and some days it just feels really hard.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, you know, the society that we have at the moment is kind of set up like that. Like we look at us, you know, like I said before, you know, when I was younger and sort of feeling like I was broken, I think the personal development industry is very much about taking something that's broken and trying to fix it. But in actual fact, none of us are broken. We just we're spiritual beings having physical experiences, and if we can learn to, it really is a simple thing to just take a breath and transform an energy. Like we have that ability. And you know, one of the things I used to teach, one of the first things I taught was conscious breathing. And it really just is about, you know, bringing that breath into your body, letting it go down right into your belly, filling up your whole body, and then just releasing that breath. And what I was teaching at the time was just to do that 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night. That what you don't even have to sit there for 20 minutes, but hey, give yourself 5 minutes. And you feel just that sense of calm. It talks to your nervous system. It sends energy throughout your whole body. It helps you to ground into your body. So just a simple thing like taking a breath creates a change. So I think we've learned to sometimes make it too complex. And, you know, we look to these external things to try to fix ourselves. But in actual fact, there's nothing wrong with us. We can make a choice and we can change something because we're creators, you know, or we can make it difficult and we can go round and round in circles. And I think when we're going round in circles, I think what we then need to do is stop and go, okay, what is it that I'm actually getting out of this? Because sometimes we have an ego identity that is invested in whatever it is that's going on. So, for example, if you have an illness, and you know you start to get better, and you think, great, I'm getting better, you know, I can get on with my life, I can do this, that and the other, and then boom, you're back where you started from, or you get some belief systems coming up about, you know, you probably won't get well anyway, blah, blah, all this stuff. And so you start going around in this cycle. There's an identity attached to that illness that's actually keeping you safe in some way. So you know, I think the personal development industry then kind of feeds on that, because it's like, well, you need this, you need that to get healthy or to be fit or to, you know, whatever. And so it starts that whole cycle round again. So it's interesting, isn't it? You know, when you sort of look at all the different perspectives, and you know, if you just come back to the simplicity and to really tuning into yourself, asking yourself the answers, and you know, it can make such a big difference.
Well, I'm guilty of that. I'm always looking for tools, you know, to assist me. And I'm like, well, how do I fix this? What's holding me back? Or, you know, and I'm trying to always move forward. And sometimes it just sort of feels like it becomes counterproductive until you just let go and go, whatever. Let's just breathe and just chill and let it happen organically.
Yeah. And part of it too is, like, you have to admit that part of it's fun, right? Because there's so many tools out there that are just fun, and so many things that you can do that's like, oh wow, check that out, you know. So I think we have to acknowledge as well that part of being human is enjoying all of these things that we have available to us. And you know, we're here for an adventure, we're here for a ride. And, if we can have fun doing it, all the better.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, I love making tools for myself because I just find it exciting, and it's just, I just enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
Now, theta healing. That was a real game changer for you. Because I know there's people that do healing that are watching, and like a lot of people have at least tried Reiki. Can you tell how that sort of changed your healing? What was the main thing about it? That sort of, well, actually, just explain what it is for people that don't know what it
Yeah.
is.
So theta healing is a modality that was created by Vianna Steibel in the States about 25, 30 years ago. And she was basically praying to God for, certain things to happen. And after a while, she found out that as she was doing this, things were healing. Excuse me. She had a bone cancer in her leg, and it made her leg about 3 inches shorter than the other, and she was going to die. It was pretty
Yep.
intense, and she literally healed that, and an instant healing. Watched the leg grow back to normal and everything, and has proof on all the X-rays and so on of the changes that happened in her body, and she started to get more people being sent to her and so on, and then people would ask, how do we learn this and that sort of thing. So, the theta healing was developed, and it's evolved over time as well. But one of the components that I really like about it is the element where we start working with belief systems and the subconscious. So when we're in the when we're theta healing, we're in the theta brainwave state.
Yep.
So that allows us to tap into the subconscious. And from there, we can identify and change limiting beliefs. So it's a very cool thing when you're doing healing with someone and you're tuned into them, and you can just say, boom, 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 you've got all these beliefs, you write them down, muscle test them, and they show up as a yes. And then you do your healing and you change the beliefs, and then you test them and it's cleared. And that's just like mind blowing when you first start to see how simply and easily you can change a belief. And also identify it. It feels like you're plucking it out of thin air sometimes. But these are really, really deep beliefs held in the subconscious that half the time we don't know are there, but they limit our ability to do things. You might think,
Yep.
I want to lose weight, and then you have trouble losing weight, or giving up smoking, or whatever it is, and then consciously you want to do that, consciously you want to change it, but you're never actually able to create the results you want because there's subconscious beliefs there that believe for whatever reason that's keeping you safe. So
Yep.
the subconscious doesn't distinguish between what's good and bad. It just has a belief, and that's it. And if it feels that it's working for it and keeping you safe, then it will hold on to that belief. But literally being able to change them instantly is pretty amazing. There's also an energy healing component, so you can clear energy, chakras,
Yep.
soul retrieval, all of that sort of stuff. But also, the belief work is a really cool component of it. And I remember specifically with theta healing, with the training though, I remember when I did that, feeling that was the first time that I'd done a healing modality, and just first of all had so much fun in the class,
Yep.
and second of all just really felt like I got it. Like, yes, I really felt like I was getting the intuitive
Yeah.
messages and that. Whereas previously, I always felt like I'd struggled. And the beautiful thing is, for the past 3 years, I've been teaching it myself. And so I get to witness as other people come in with the same fears that I had. Like, I can't do it. Everyone else in the class will be able to do it, but not me. I won't be good enough. I'm not very intuitive, all of that sort of stuff. And then literally in this 3-day training, watch people just open up to their own abilities, doing things that they never thought that they would be able to do. And the thing I love about that is when I look back to trying to develop my intuition all of those years ago to just doing it was a very cool thing. And then, of course, the more you use it, the more you practice, you know, the better you get at it. So it's a really, really fun way to learn.
Yeah. It's amazing when you start listening to it.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's just fun, you know. It's just, you know, we should all be able to do this naturally and from children, so that it's just this innate ability that we are free to use. But unfortunately, we have, you know, a lot of other stuff going on that limits that. But yeah, it's very fun.
Yes, they put us in classrooms and try to get it right out of us.
Yes, exactly.
So, 3-day classes. What do they? How often do you do those?
I usually do a class every 1 to 2 months, just depending on what else is happening. But I teach the basic, advanced, and 3 other classes for theta healing. And the basic and advanced are 3-day, and the others are just usually 2 days. And yeah, they're a lot of fun to teach. Like I just have so much fun. It's amazing. And it's very simple to learn. It's relatively inexpensive compared to a lot of stuff out there. And it's an amazing way for people to develop their intuition. And another thing too, just to mention, in terms of developing intuition and that, another thing that I did to develop my abilities was reading tarot cards. So that was something that I'd always had a love of, you know, since this whole journey began. And when I came back to Adelaide and started doing the healing and the theta and that, I also started doing tarot readings professionally by this time. And it was really funny because I started doing healing, and I would get a few clients at the expos and all that sort of thing. And I kept kind of hearing, you know, you need to be doing readings. I didn't want to know about it. I was way too scared to do readings at an expo. And then one day I remember putting my cards in the box to take to the expo and thinking, but I'm not doing any readings, just taking the cards. And then literally on the first day, and this is at the Mind Body Psychic Expo, maybe, can't remember, something like that, a big one. And it was about 2:00 in the afternoon on the first day, and I had no clients, and that was just unheard of at one of these big expos, you know. And I'm just like, drat, because I knew the message that I was being given that I did not want to hear. So I wrote on a piece of paper, tarot readings, however much, I can't remember, stuck it on the front of my table, and literally 2 people walked straight up and signed up for a reading. And I just thought, well, sink or swim time, you know. And off I went and did readings, and then did that for another probably 8-9 years at the expos. But you know, it was an interesting experience, because I guess I threw myself in the deep end, and that was just the best way to get started, because I think otherwise we just overthink everything too much. But playing with the cards really helped me develop my intuition. And one of the things, because I taught tarot for a while, I don't teach it very often anymore, but I used to teach the basics. And in fact, there is an exercise in my book, the Secret Healer's Business one. There it is. There is an exercise in there that I've included as well, which is about not using the cards to develop intuition, but not necessarily to do a reading, but by looking at the card, looking at what's happening in the card, letting the card talk to you. There's a list of things that I get people to do, and then making up, you know, if this was happening to someone who was doing something or other, you know, what might that represent? And by looking at it in terms of, you're not trying to do a reading, you're just using the cards to give you information, to sort of spark your imagination and your intuition, and then allowing yourself to make up an answer, and get away from the whole I'm doing a reading thing, but look at it as just playing and having fun and using your imagination. That's when the gold starts to happen, because you take the pressure off, and you just let your imagination go for it. Well, your imagination and your intuition are the same thing, really. Sometimes when you're doing readings, it will feel like you're making stuff up. It's supposed to feel like that because it's just because the brain doesn't know where the information's coming from. The brain doesn't necessarily understand it all, but your intuition does. So all of these fears and doubts that people have, I feel like I'm making it up, I'm not good, I'm not getting the answers and all that. It's all part of the process of learning the intuition and developing it. But we have to just put that sort of the mind in the background, and by doing some of those basic exercises, you can you can develop that further. So I definitely think that playing with the cards, either whether people want to do readings or not, playing with the cards and just having some fun with them really, really helps to develop that intuitive skills.
Yep. It's so important because, as you say, with the intuition, until you step out, it does feel like you're making it up.
Yeah.
And at least when you do the card readings, even if you just do them on Facebook groups, when people start getting feedback, like I'll be like, am I just making it up? And then you get people going, oh, that was spot on. That's got me in tears. And all that, and then you're like, holy crap, what's going on?
Yeah.
But then you start to trust your intuition more in other stuff.
Yeah.
So
exactly. And that's the beauty of it. That's all part of that learning to trust yourself, learning to recognize, learning to recognize how your intuition works, because we can't always measure it or understand it. It's just it defies all of that, but it's just there. And the more we can get the mind out of the way, and the more we can play, the more when you're having fun with your intuition and doing stuff like that, it will just shine. But the minute we make it hard work or try to get too serious about it all, that's when we kind of block it.
Yeah, no, I understand that. It's so good when you're having fun with your intuition. It's like sometimes I'm sitting there and it's like I'm telling myself jokes or having a muck around with someone, and then I think, is that my guides or is that just me? And I'm like, well, I'm crazy, so if the guides aren't crazy, they would have been long gone by now.
But you know what? I think they want us to laugh. I think they want us to have fun. I think they want us to, enjoy life, and that means, we got to lighten up. We've got to, enjoy what we're doing and allow ourselves to use these abilities. And I know when I'm healing, sometimes I'll get images of things happening, and sometimes they're really funny, and like you tell the person and you both burst into laughter because you've been given this crazy image. But laughter helps to release energy as well, but in a fun way. So it's interesting the things that come through sometimes.
I know. And then you get you guys will give you an image and you're like, dear God, no, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
No chance.
Yes, that's it. Yes, been there a few times.
Your new book that's out, Secret Healer's Business. What's that about? Can you tell us about that?
So yes, this one I wrote because I started getting a lot of questions from people about being a healer. What did you do to get where you are? How do you do this? What do you recommend for that? What modality should I be doing? All of these questions. And I just thought, well, I have a lot of experience with this. I've been doing the expos for a lot of years. I, opened my own healing studio, all of that sort of thing, and, worked with clients for quite a few years. So I thought, why not just write it all down? And when I was writing it, I just kind of asked the questions of, what would I want to know if I was starting out now? What questions have other people asked me over the years? So I shared all of that in the book. I share some of my own experience. Like, it's not a it's not a personal journey book. It is a sort of more of a how-to book, but it is, has got bits and pieces of my own journey. I include what I call my worst healing ever, which I say that playfully because it seemed like the worst healing ever at the time, but it actually turned out to be a beautiful learning experience. Yep. I had a couple of crazy experiences with healing sessions, and we're human. We all have some sort of crazy going on at some point in our lives, and when you're a healer, you get to hear about a lot of people's crazy, which is fine.
Can you tell us one of the crazy stories? Buy the book.
Yeah, buy the book. I'm just trying to think of
because I know some of the people in the audience, and I know they're crazy, so they'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I just I guess maybe if I just tell you about my the one well, hang on, let me think of something else just came to mind then. Okay. So this is this is just what popped into my head, so I'll go with this. The others are in the book, so people can buy the book and read them. But this just popped into my head. So I was at an expo doing a healing for this guy, and he said, oh no, that's right, I picked up that he had like a severe blow to his head.
Yep.
And I asked him, if you had got a hit in the head or had some damage to the head. He said no. And so I thought, okay, well, that's really weird, because I could see this whole kind of echoey thing going on. But, you learn over the years, don't doubt yourself just because the client doesn't see something. We just haven't found the answer yet. We just haven't figured it out yet. So a little while later, he just puts his hand up and says, I just remembered I fell out this window when I was 2, landed on my head. I was like, oh, okay, that'll do it, So, yeah, that was just a kind of a funny story. I've had a couple of weird ones. I had a lady who actually, so a walk-in experience. So she left her body and another soul came in. That scared the crap out of me, just quietly. That was massive.
Was that why you were healing her?
Yeah, while I was healing her, which is really interesting, because I'd only ever heard of that happening before, when someone had an accident, some sort of trauma, left the body, and a new being came in. But this actually happened on the table. And I remember, I put this in the book as well, but I'll quickly share a little now. So I remember when I sat down to do the healing with her, that there was all these angels standing around her. And I remember thinking, well, that's weird, because I don't usually get like a whole team of angels showing up. And then we released a lot of really deep trauma with her, and her body was kind of shaking. And that can sometimes happen when you release trauma, but it kind of went on for a while. I'm thinking, okay, what's going on here? And then I just remember kind of at that point that the healing, it's almost like it got taken out of my hands. Like I wasn't there really doing anything anymore. I was just watching. And I remember being told to go stand at her feet. And as I did that, and by this time she'd sort of stopped the shaking as well. But I stood at her feet, and then she said to me, I feel like my life force is leaving my body. Am I okay? And I'm just like, yeah, everything's fine, hon. Just take a deep breath. You're doing great. What the is going on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is she okay, or what is going on? Because I literally kind of like went cold, because I kind of had a sense of what was happening, but at that point I hadn't really fully recognized it. So I had that moment of panic, and all I heard was, it's all good. You know what to do. Thinking, well, I'm glad someone thinks so. Great. But then she just kind of, I could feel this process was still happening. Whatever was happening was still happening. I just sort of let her go through it all. And then at some point I just said to her, what are you feeling now? How are you doing? And she said, I feel like I'm integrating into my body. And when she said that, that's when I knew exactly what had just happened. Yeah. And I said to her, you were walking? And she said, yes. And I said, when did you come in? She said, just then. And that blew my mind. And the only reason I really had any idea about the walk-ins is because I'd had my own experience as a walk-in when I was about 24. So that experience that I had in my own life just kind of came back to me, and I remembered, okay, this is what I felt, and that's kind of how I knew sort of what to do with her. But the interesting thing was the client that I was supposed to have after her cancelled, and that 1 hour session lasted 3 hours, and there was just no way that I could let her go home earlier. It took at least an hour for her to integrate into her body. And then it took about probably 45 minutes. I just sat and talked to her afterwards and just kind of explained to her what had happened, just to help her get grounded and balanced and all that sort of thing. You know, she was a little kind of spun out, but at the same time, she knew that something really significant had taken place. So yeah, so that was a really freaky experience. But, you know, I always say to people that want to be healers, always trust that you have the ability to handle whatever comes your way. And I always have. And I know that I would have not been sent her if I was in my first year as a healer. Like, it just wouldn't happen because it would be dangerous, you know. But because I had the experience, I had my own experience, it was something that I was able to handle quite easily. I mean, I had a moment of panic, but then once I realized what was going on, it was okay. But once again, that's where we have to get into that 100% trust, you know.
So that would have been a real struggle just when you had that moment of, you'd have to just quickly go, oh, crap, I've got to hold space now. I've got to get back into it straight away.
Yeah.
Because if you went into that panic and you didn't know anything about it, you'd be like, oh my God, did she sign a waiver before she come here? Is this the end of my business?
Yeah. And, you know, number one is hold space always, no matter what is happening around you. Number one is hold space. So her safety and her, you know, where she was at was more important than my fear, basically.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Well, I can imagine. I mean, I've had some good healings where I felt like I was just on drugs and out of it before and had some releases. But my God, walk in, take the rest of the day off.
Yeah.
Have a cigarette. I don't smoke. Yeah, you're going to need one anyway.
Yeah, it was pretty mind-blowing. Pretty mind-blowing. I had a lady also once drift off into another dimension. I don't think she was coming back for a minute. And she said to me later that, because I thought she'd stopped breathing, and she said to me later that, like, Creator was telling her to breathe. It'd be like, just take a little breath now. Just take a little breath. And what she said to me was like, she felt like she was a molecule, like she just literally went off into this other dimension. And I won't go into the whole details because I know she's a very private lady. So even though no one knows who she is, I don't want to sort of share too much of her story. But it was one of, alongside the walk-in experience, this was probably another equal par kind of mind-blowing experience that, you know, she just got off the table and went, wow, that was amazing. But I'm certainly glad that doesn't happen all the time, because it would just be, yeah, I definitely would take up smoking or drinking or something.
In case of walk-in break glass.
Yeah, exactly.
Bottle of red in there. So do you know why, like, walk-ins? Is there any specific reason that people get walk-ins?
Well, you know, people have a lot of different perspectives about walk-ins. And when I had my own experience, when I was 24, I didn't understand. I didn't know what had happened. You know, just quickly, I'd been out. I'd had way too much to drink, did some stupid stuff, fell and broke my arm, fell from a height and broke my arm. Got taken straight to hospital. And I can remember being wheeled into the operating theatre, and I could see all the people looking down with the masks, and I could see the light. And I remember having this thought, I'm going to die. And then that was the last thing I remember before I woke up the next morning, and I was confused. Why am I here? Like, where am I? I was supposed to die. What the hell's going on? So I was really disoriented. But everything changed on so many levels. Like I had this friend at the time who was very loud and a real probably someone who liked to lead others astray, let's say. And she came to visit me, and I just remember thinking, go away. I just couldn't handle the noise and the energy. And then I also remember thinking that I'm just disoriented because I'd been drinking. I've got a hangover. I'm disoriented, all of these things. It wasn't until many, many, many years later, probably, I don't know, maybe 20 years or 15 years or something later, that I actually realized, oh my God, that was a walk-in experience. I actually left my body and a new being came in. So at that time, I started to, research a little bit, well, what's actually going on here? What happens?
Yep.
So from my perspective is, in general, when one soul leaves a body and another enters, they generally have a contract. Now, I have heard sometimes there are times when, there's beings that don't want to come in. I don't know about that myself, so I can't speak to that. But from what I have experienced and what I've know of from other people, there's always been a contract that, and from myself, I have a sense that the first being came in because it needed to experience a whole lot of trauma and crazy stuff. And then when I got to 24, I had an experience just before this happened where there was actually a lot of love and a lot of healing in my life. And then when that ended, that's when the walk-in, the first being left. And my sense of that was that being it wanted to experience the trauma, but it didn't want to be here for a long time to deal with that. And it chose to leave. It had the experience it needed. The second being that came in, which is me now, didn't want to have to go through all the trauma firsthand. It wanted to come and actually go beyond all of that and to really step into my own power, be on that path of enlightenment and all of that sort of stuff. But I didn't, my sense is I'd already experienced that in other lives and I didn't actually need to recreate that now. I didn't need to recreate it. I didn't need to relive trauma in this life. So I stepped in at that later age. So that's my perspective on it. From what I know and what I've learned, and it may differ to other people. But yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
Yep. We've got one question from the audience. I see it's in the private chat. Emma Tompkins says, have you experienced any past life in healings?
Oh, thanks for the question, Emma. Yes, absolutely. Practically every healing I do, I tap into people's past lives. It's very much a part of the work that I do and part of the clearing process. I like to, not 100% always, but generally, if there's something coming up, an issue someone's working with, I like to go back and find the point of origin where it actually began. So that could be a childhood experience, it could be a past life, it could be collective consciousness, it could be genetic, it could be at a soul level. So I will ask to be taken to where did this first originate, and then clear the energy at that level. And then what that does is it clears it all the way through to now. So instead of just clearing something in this life, we can and potentially recreate it because that old energy is still there. We can clear it on all the different levels. So yeah, absolutely. And it's very fun tapping into past lives because you see some really crazy stuff, people getting their heads chopped off and stuff like that. It's very cool. Acceptable years ago, not so much now.
I mean, that spun me out. I was doing a past life regression once, and I was in the gallows, and I could smell the smells and all that. And I looked down, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm a girl!"
I love it. Oh, that's awesome.
And then it was dropped.
Oh my goodness.
But
I actually I see you. Sorry, this is just coming through right now. I'm seeing you as like what would you call it? Like a Zen master, like a warrior. You know, the warriors that had that kind of Zen energy. There was a name for them. I can't think what it is. If they're Chinese or something like that. But there was a spirituality connected to them, a lot of determination, a lot of focus. And I don't know, I think that just contributes to your journey that you're on now. The fact that you're, doing this, interested in ascension and spirituality and discovering more about who you are. Because I feel like in this time, there's a much more feminine energy connected to what you had in the other lifetime. It was very masculine. So it's like you're allowing more of that intuition, allowing more of that, the things we've been talking about, the creativity and all of that to come through in this lifetime. It's almost like you've got the Zen energy. It's there. It's just a matter of just bringing it through in a little bit different way. I think that's also going to help. It's like there's some blocks, there's some resistance to this as well. Carrying some burdens that are taking a little while to release. Sorry, I didn't know we were going to do a healing today.
No,
that just all started coming out. But yeah, sometimes you just see, sometimes I just see past lives when I look at people. And I used to think that I was kind of nuts. And no, first of all, I used to think that everyone could see it. And if I said to someone, oh, hey, that lady used to be blah, 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 they'd be like, duh, anyone can see that. And then I realized that anyone couldn't see that. And then I, just sort of judged what I was seeing a little bit like, And it's crazy. We have these abilities sometimes and we see them in a negative way, like, oh, I'm just judging someone. Well, maybe you're not. Maybe you're just actually picking up on that person's thoughts. Maybe everyone can see this. Well, they probably could if they didn't go to school and have all of that indoctrination, but we have these abilities, but we don't always know how to recognize them and utilize them.
Well, that's I've experienced that when talking to someone. Silly thoughts would come into my head.
Yeah.
And I went back and asked that person the next time I spoke to them, I brought it up. I said, were you thinking of this sort of thing the other day when? And they were like, yeah, I was thinking of all sorts of stuff in my head that day I was talking to you. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was, because I was like, what's wrong? I've got all these thoughts coming in.
Yes. Yeah. Well, have you ever had an experience like where, do you actually do healing for people?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're doing healing for someone, or even before one of these interviews or something, like you're doing that and you start feeling nervous and then you realize, well, hang on a minute, that's not me, that's the person, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I make psychic defense pouches, like tools and enchant items, and I've got a psychic defense one. I'll have a day where I was feeling a friend's anxiety. I got up and I was doing my business, and then suddenly I started feeling anxious.
Yeah.
And then I started feeling depressed. I'm like, well, this is not me.
Yeah.
I tried to shift the energy. I couldn't shift it by myself. So I went and got my the psychic defense pouch and put that on, and it just went.
Yeah.
It just went. And It was, So.
And that's an important thing, recognizing that it's not yours. Like too often people feel things in their body when they're not really accustomed to this. And it's like, start to recognize that you actually are intuitive and you actually are, picking up on other things. It's not always just your own things that you're feeling.
Yep. Except if I put the news on, then that could trigger me.
Oh man, don't put the news
100% anger straight away.
Oh, you know what? Went to a stage where every time I put the TV on, I would cry. So it's like, okay, don't do that anymore. Because I was just feeling so much,
Yep.
But then I could go to my sons, when they were little and they had what do they have, like assemblies, and the kids go up and get their little awards, and all the mums and dads are there clapping and all that. I would cry at that because I would feel everyone's emotion around me, because when you're looking at your kid, or if you haven't got kids, your animal, whatever, you have this love in your heart just opens, and then you're standing next to all these people with all this love gushing everywhere. I just tears pouring down my eyes. It's like, God, I'm glad when they went to high school and they didn't want me there anymore.
Yeah, people just don't realize how much they pick up on a daily basis, and they think it's all them. And they're like, what's wrong with me? And I'm like, well, I don't know, I haven't had a look, but it's just, it's just all around us.
That's it.
So is there anything else you want to add about your book?
I will just say about the book that it's aimed at people who, want to get into the healing industry, who want to be healers, who want to maybe even find out a little bit about what's it like, working as a healer, that sort of thing. It covers things from developing your skills to working with clients to developing the business side of it. But I have to say also, I've had quite a few people read it who are not healers or not interested in being healers, who get a lot out of the book, because some of the concepts in there, they're for daily life. Being present, no judgment, all of that sort of stuff. These are things that are relevant to living your everyday life and to navigating, what we go through on a daily basis. But all I've done is put it in the context of being a healer. So, I'll show the cover here again. There we go. Jump out, and it's available in, Amazon, Balboa Press. If you go to my website, there's links and all that.
Because I've heard some of the guests say, don't go to Amazon, go to my website, because Amazon don't pay me crap.
Yeah, you know what? You'd be surprised how little you actually get when you write a book. It's quite interesting, actually, especially if you go through a publisher. But the thing for this book was not about the money for me. The thing was actually just about, I just wanted to express that. And I wanted to just help others that were in a situation that I was once in, starting off as a healer. So that's really where it came from. And when I made the decision to sell the book, I thought, I can make way more money if I just publish it myself and get it out there, or I can actually get it out to more people and make a lot less money. And that just really resonated for this book, to do it that way. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
But universe, still feel free to send me the money.
Yeah, exactly. It can come in other ways, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Willing to receive.
Is there anything that you'd like to add? Any advice that you'd like to leave the listeners with?
Advice. Okay. So, I think we've talked about a lot, but I think in terms of advice, I would say to people, just trust yourself. We spend so much time worrying about trying to get it right, trying to meet other people's expectations, what other people think, all of that sort of stuff. Just follow your heart and follow your joy. Make sure that you're doing what brings you joy. If you're doing something because you think you're supposed to, or because it is going to make you money and all that, you're not living from your heart. Really tap into what would be fun for you, and then start moving towards that. Follow your joy, trust yourself, and listen to your own wisdom. Always listen to your own wisdom. It's not audible at the moment, Anne-Marie. Thanks for the question. I'm just at the moment considering, the possibility of that. So at the moment, it's available in physical book form and ebook as well. On Amazon, as well as Book Depository and all of that sort of stuff as well.
That's awesome. And people, all your the show links to get hold of Keryn's books or information or classes is in the show notes if you just want to click into there. Do you do online courses at all? Or is it all in person?
I'm looking at the possibility of doing the theta training online later this year. I haven't done it up till now, but I am looking at that possibility because I'm looking at going more global with my business at the moment. So that's a possibility. I do have some shorter online programs. If people go into my website, kerynlee.com.au, under I think it's in the shop actually. If you go into the shop, there is a number of short class, like there's a developing intuition, secret language of money. I think there might be a tarot one, which is actually quite a long one. So there's a couple of how to not take on other people's energy, stuff like that, which is quite inexpensive, but quite a bit of clearing a bit of energy in those. So they're quite good to do. But yeah, otherwise at the moment, most other stuff is online. And I'm also, I do have a workshop based on the book, The Secret Healer's Business book. There's a workshop that'll be coming up that will be online. And I am looking at doing a bit of a longer program online later this year as well. So yeah, there'll be more coming up online.
Okay. Have we got one more question? Have we got a quick one? Oh yeah, you answered that. Well, thanks, Keryn, so much for having the show. It's been a real, it's been a brilliant conversation. I've gained so much. I'm going to go back and listen to it later.
Thank you so much
as I
for
say,
having me on.
Yeah, it's just I learned so much. And do you go to the psychic fairs still around in Adelaide?
No, when I opened my healing studio, I just sort of cut back. So I did do one last year, but I'm not doing them as much anymore at the moment. So I think it's that was the stage of my life, and then I think you sort of progress and you move beyond that. So I don't see me going back in the near future, but hey, anything's possible.
Unless you just do the odd one to go and blow the dust off the cards.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's usually the day when everyone asks you for healing. So I'm like, I brought my cards today.
Well, actually, I didn't do. I really put away the cards in terms of doing public readings. Probably about 2 years ago now, because I really just wanted to focus 100% on the healing, because really for me that's my superpower. I love doing readings and it was awesome, but I really feel that the magic for me is when I'm doing healing. So
it's great, isn't it? It's great when you see people's lives change. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, just you can't even describe it. You go home from work at the end of the day just with that feeling of joy, just knowing that you've helped someone change something that they struggled with, and it's just nothing better.
Yeah, well, I know when I do like readings, and then someone comes back a month later and they're like, "Hey, I dealt with this," and it's just like, oh my god, that's just brilliant. It makes it all worthwhile.
Oh, it really does. It really does. And I think also too, not only just the healing session, but when you provide them also with the tools, knowledge, information, whatever they require to then use that in their daily lives so that they can actually be more empowered and more involved in their own transformation, so that, they're not just relying on you, but you're able to give them some information to help them on a daily basis. And then when you hear about them actually using that, I tried this tool where I did that. It's like, yes, that's gold, because that's giving the power back to the people, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it can be a real game changer, and especially if it's something they've struggled all their life, or it's held them back all their life. And it's like, my God, I can't believe it was that easy. I mean, it is and it's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, well, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you again, Keryn. It was brilliant having you on the show, and we'll see you people later. Bye.
Lovely. Thanks, Brooke. Thanks, everyone. Bye.